my secret. Just do something that ain't nobody ever done before, but make it sound like something that's always been there forever.
Welcome to This Filipino American Life, a podcast that explores the nuanced experiences of Filipinos in the United States at iba pa. My name is Ryan Carpio, and I'm joined by my fellow hosts,
Joe Bernardo,
Elaine Delalis,
and Mike.
Yeah!
Producer Mike.
Oh, wow. He just kind of went with it.
Yeah, we didn't have to say and.
Yeah.
He's used to it
Well,
now.
clearly nobody was ready to do it. So.
we do have another person to join us.
Hi! It's Girly.
Oh, hi, Girly.
I'm so happy to be back.
Thank you for being here.
For you, Elaine.
Yay!
And you, Ryan.
Thank
you.
And you, Mike.
Yay!
Thank you.
Not you, Joseph.
Boo!
You know, you're a crowd favorite.
Yeah?
Amongst my friends.
Really?
Yeah. I'm serious.
Who is that?
Seriously, some of my friends are like, dude.
Other than people in her family.
There's also a review of isn't there a 5-star review that we had from?
Oh, yeah.
It says bring Girly back, like one of our early ones.
Shut up.
You don't remember that?
It was, but I think it was her cousin.
Dang.
Oh, it's okay.
No, it wasn't.
It
was
wasn't?
it was my friend from University of Washington.
Oh,
see?
it was Meritus? Or
No,
someone else? Oh,
someone else.
Yeah.
Her name is Chriselle.
You know who also likes it when Girly's on the show? Faith.
Yeah.
Faith
I
Sentia,
love you,
friend
Faith.
of the
I miss
show.
you.
Future guest. We're putting it out there.
Because they have the Ilocana mafia going on.
That's right.
Oh, that's true.
That's
A
right.
lot of that group of... Yeah, that's true.
Also, because Girly was holding a lighter and I didn't know what she was gonna do with it. Just kidding.
Yeah, who else is with us in the room right now?
I know. There's some.
There's always a lot of different.
So this
Energy in
episode
the
is brought to
room.
you by Paulo Santo. Why is that, Ryan?
I don't know.
Because he's our T-PAL of the episode, right? Palo Santo. No, Girly's lighting a Palo Santo incense.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, right now.
But the actual T-PAL of the episode is AJ Calamine.
Oh my goodness, AJ.
AJ, we actually know you. I'm not going to ask Ryan, do you know him?
AJ.
Because we know him.
We know AJ. Come on.
So shout out to
AJ.
Ryan. He's an editor for
You mean
things
AJ.
like Mr. Robot.
Mr. Robot.
And that some NBC show about a hospital that I can't remember, but yeah.
And sitcom hip-hop.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
What?
And Lumpia too.
This is IG.
Electric Boogaloo.
Electric.
Whatever's
Boogaloo.
coming out. Yeah.
Cool.
What's
Thank
up,
you.
AJ? Thank you.
Thank you for
AJ.
being a T-PAL.
Thanks, AJ.
And then we have email. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
We have a few emails, a couple emails actually.
Cool.
Our first one is from Michelle of Philam Learners.
Ooh.
Yeah. I'm not going to read the whole thing because it's pretty long, but she was mentioning the lost cultural traditions
Oh.
episode, and she says, another great topic. It's really interesting to hear what traditions we are holding on to and which seem to be changing. I like the statement from the episode, progressing doesn't mean forgetting. We can move forward and innovate while keeping the essence of the traditions.
You know who said that? I think Girly did.
Oh, wow.
Didn't you say that?
That.
I think Girly said it.
I don't know, but I will take credit for
Okay.
it. Thank you.
Or I did.
I think Elaine did actually.
Chill.
She also says, she also mentions, in regards to mano, we mano on my husband's side of the family, but on my side of the family, that tradition was not carried over to our generation. I might have only did it with my grandparents who passed away long ago during my childhood. So on my side, just as Elaine said, once the grandparents passed away, we didn't mano anyone else.
Oh.
Yeah. But yeah, thank you for your email,
You have another
Michelle.
one?
And a second email that we received.
What?
Thank you. I guess in response to our Joseph Ileto episode, and it's from Michael Nalus or Nalis. He says, also don't forget Charlotte Colton, who was shot and killed in the Santa Barbara postal plant during a mass shooting. So he mentioning Charlotte Colton as another kind of a victim of mass shootings. But thank you, Michael, for I didn't know about Charlotte Colton at all.
I didn't know either.
I think that was back in 2006. But thank you for bringing that to our attention.
Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah. So as Girly is waving the incense and making this smell like church right now.
It does. It was a Palo Santo. It smells like.
You don't really smell this kind of scent in church.
Oh, okay, fine.
Yeah, it's not like. It's not sulfur.
Or sandalwood.
It's like, if it was sulfur, we'd probably be dead. He's already dead.
It's not frankincense or
Frankincense.
Myrrh.
myrrh.
It's sandalwood that they burn in church.
They burn myrrh. Frankincense.
Frankincense.
Isn't frankincense like a monster?
That's Frankenstein.
Oh, Stein.
And it's Frankenstein's monster, not
That's right. That's right.
This is money. His frankincense.
Instead of Franken dollars.
Well played, Joe.
Okay, but speaking of all the
these
spiritual things, what are we talking about, Ryan?
Oh, today we're going to talk about the afterlife and some traditions of Filipinos and maybe even new Filipino American traditions about our thoughts on funerals, death, and the afterlife.
The afterlife.
Yeah.
The moo.
Just in time for Halloween.
I know, just in time for Halloween, and I think there's a reason why Girly's here.
All Saints Day, yeah.
Ooh. No, but we always talk about cultural traditions and on TFAL, and I really wanted to explore this a little bit with you all because I don't know some of the reasons why my parents or even my family members and friends do certain things the way they do. But there are certain traditions after a person passes away in Filipino culture that we all probably have experienced based on the way we grew up, based on our religion, some really weird ones about what you should and shouldn't do. So I wanted to pose that question to you guys. What are some common traditions that you've heard of, practiced yourself after someone passes?
So I remember in the Philippines we put black cloth on all of the mirrors. Yeah, I didn't.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I didn't know why though. Does anyone know why?
I feel like the mirror is supposed to be a gateway of some sort, and so I think I totally heard that. I could be making it up, but I feel like the covering of it is to make sure that the passage of the soul goes straight and doesn't kind of want to come back. I imagine that's what it is. I don't know. Huh. But that's my sister talks about that, like put cloth on the mirrors and stuff.
I never heard that one.
Yeah. So when you're having, when you do the rosaries in the house, like all of the mirrors in the house are completely covered.
Even the bathroom?
Yeah.
Wow. Oh man.
So you could have like kulangot on your nose and you don't know.
I mean, I'm sure you can pull it aside and use a mirror. Generally, all the mirrors are covered with black cloth.
So I just Googled why black cover on mirrors, and it's to guide the spirit out. Mm-hmm. And then there may be like demons or dark other spirits around them. So it's also so that you, the family or whoever, doesn't have to see that as well.
Oh, interesting.
Well, this is from Chabad.org. So like Chabad.org. So it might be a Jewish tradition, but all these Judeo-Christian things.
We kind of borrow a bunch of them. So
my family, I remember the 9-day novena.
Mm-hmm.
9, so long.
That's called Pasyam in Tagalog, right? Pasyam.
I remember all these things when my Lola died because we all did them, and then the 40-day, because after 40 days, I think the whole idea is like for 40 days their spirit is still on earth, and then on the 40th day they're supposed to go.
Right, and that's like a Christian,
very Judeo,
very like Jesus Christ 40 days on earth. Like,
yes, and then my mom wore black, and all her siblings they all wore black for a year.
Yeah.
Oh, a year?
Wow.
Yeah,
a whole year.
A whole year. If it's not like the entire outfit, it's like a band of black.
Oh.
Yeah, my mom and most of like aunts and uncles, they wore black the whole year.
You've seen the bands, right? Where people just put like armbands or like.
Yeah,
I've seen that like at funerals, but I didn't like in everyday life.
Yeah.
And that in my family, it was that direct relatives couldn't be pallbearers.
Oh, interesting.
So what's the story behind that?
I don't know, but I remember like when they were getting pallbearers for my Lola, it was like in-laws of in-laws, like cousin in-laws, like they weren't directly a descendant of the person. And I feel like the thing behind it is they don't want the weight of that to be on the family members.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Literally, the way.
Literally.
The literal loop.
Yeah. But we didn't do this here, but my dad, when my paternal Lola died, they had this thing at the house because they had the novena in the house there, that they had the casket and then everybody had to go under it before they went.
Oh.
Why
You had to
under?
crawl?
I don't know why under. And I asked my dad, they didn't have to crawl because it was like they raised it up.
wow.
Oh, so they're
In the
literally
doorway,
walking.
they raised like
Oh, wow.
they raised it up, and then everybody had to go under. And I asked my dad, "Why did you have to do that?" And he's like, "I have no idea. They just told us. They all told us just do it." And I'm like, "Oh, okay."
I heard the thing where the youngest member of the family goes over the casket. I've heard that.
Oh, I've seen that.
Yeah.
I've seen
It's usually a baby or
baby
something.
being
Yeah.
passed across the top of the
What's
coffin.
the thing with that? What reason?
I don't know, especially just passing on
Oh my gosh.
traditions. I'm not sure, to be honest
Well,
with you.
I think it's supposed to not only like a lot of it is geared towards like being visited, right? A lot of the traditions I think that we have when it comes to the afterlife is about what happens to the spirit when someone dies here on earth. So there's all these things that we have come up with to make sure that passing is peaceful. The passing of the baby over the coffin is one, I think, an homage to ancestry. I think it's
passing on like the person's legacy, I guess. Maybe.
Yeah.
Oh.
But also like so that the spirit of the child isn't like disturbed or something like that.
You say this, when my Lola died, my cousin Carl was the youngest in my family in the States. And the week of the novena, like before my Lola died, he was fine. After he died, he got really sick, like high fever. He just was like, it was just awful. I thought he had the flu out of nowhere. And he was maybe like 4 or 5. So he was relatively young. And he was just like miserable the whole time. The moment my Lola was put in the ground, whatever he had broke.
Wow.
And my whole family thinks it was because he's so young and so open, and he couldn't handle being visited by my Lola at the time because we knew like her presence was there. So that he was so young that he didn't know how to take it all in. And then when she was in the ground, like it was released.
That makes sense.
And then at the novena, he was like fine. Like when she was finally in the ground. So he would be like, because to me, novena is like a party
Yeah.
with a long 5 million hour rosary. It takes forever. And so I just was tripping out that like a day before he was just miserable and sick.
Wow. So are there any kind of traditions that you guys do that you that you don't really think is reasonable or anything like that? Well, like when it comes to funerals, I'll give you an example. Like there's this one where after you go to like a wake or funeral, like you're not supposed to go straight home.
Yeah.
Have you guys heard that one?
I don't know about that one.
No,
Please.
girly and
Did I?
remember we went to Rosary, and then you thought it was weird because I didn't want to go straight home.
Oh.
So I went to this really kind of sketchy gas station just to buy Gatorade. But they were just it was weird because you were looking at me kind of weird. But yeah, it's supposed to be the spirits aren't supposed to follow you
following
home,
you, right.
so you're supposed to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
So they don't, and then
It
and
like
then go
confuses them,
home. Something like
Well,
that.
my parents have told me,
but they always find you.
to not visit anybody. They do though. To not visit if you've gone to a funeral or a novena. To not visit anyone who's sick, because you carry death with you. And my cousin's best friend came to my Lola's funeral to support my cousin, and then went to the hospital because her dad was in the hospital, and the hospital is actually nearby the funeral because my Lola is buried at San Fernando Mission, and her dad.
My Lola's there too.
Yeah,
a lot of people are there.
Yeah. And then, but her dad was at the hospital that's basically closer to the freeway.
Yeah.
It's close. It's right there.
I don't like going to
It's
that
like
hospital.
I really don't like it when they do that, when they put cemeteries across from hospitals.
Well,
like, why?
Here's the thing. She went from the funeral to her dad, and then her dad passed.
Oh no!
Like really close afterwards. And my dad was like, she was not supposed to go to see him because it's like you're carrying death with you.
And if you're vulnerable, right?
Yeah. So like a lot of the times when like we've gone to funerals and I tell my dad, and he's like, don't come home. He doesn't want me to visit them because he knows like my mom's sick, and then like he's like, I don't want you to bring that here.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I think a large part of this is the idea that everything is energy. Our bodies are energy and the world around us. So, I mean, I think that's, what when they say, you don't want to carry death with you, it's just like remnants of that energy is with you.
Right.
You know what's I think it's unreasonable?
Tell us.
You can't take food from home from a wake.
I was going to get to that.
Wait, what?
You can't?
You're not supposed to.
You're not supposed to take
supposed
food
to.
from the wake
Wait.
and
To your
bring it
home.
home.
I mean,
You're just
Are you
supposed to eat
serious?
it there.
Yeah. You're supposed to eat it there, or maybe just bring
Bring it somewhere else.
Bring
That
somewhere else, like give
that
it away.
Really I mean, I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah.
Is that
But
real?
that always felt really odd for me when people would take
Okay,
food home.
I'm really shocked because
That's a Filipino thing. Yeah.
I've totally done that.
Well, I forget I forget the actual like. I mean, again, the reasonings are probably similar, but so I asked my dad, and my dad goes, "Oh, I only heard about that here." I go, "Oh, how come?" He goes, "Because in the Philippines, you eat everything." I'm like, oh, okay. There's nothing to take home. I'm like, got it.
That's a good point.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, you eat everything, and so there is a special like, you're not supposed to keep food at the place of the wake. So people are supposed to actually, I think the family members aren't supposed to take the food back home. You either finish it there, or like if you're not in the family, if you do take it, you do have to stop somewhere and all that stuff. But a lot of people don't take it because of that tradition. I find also unreasonable because I'm like, there's so much food.
And some of it's good.
I didn't know that, and I've always taken something.
Does that include the wake, or is it also? Does it include novenas?
I mean, it's the length. Maybe I think it's
okay. The thing is that I actually always look forward to the food at all of the wakes and the novenas because out of all of the times that family members get together and they have time to like catch up and talk and cook together, this is one of those times.
I know.
And like, it's the practice of just catching up with each other and reminiscing about the person who's passed away and just sharing all these memories. And that, for me too, that energy goes into the food that's made for those occasions. So I one of the things I always look forward to is that practice of coming together and making the food for all of the people who will eventually come and celebrate this person's life.
Right. And I think that's like, not to say I like funerals, but like it's my favorite part about being Filipino and having that tradition is that you have that family aspect. Because I remember my Lola passed away, and that was like the hardest like day of my life. But then like, a few hours later or that evening, like my whole family came together, and like we were together for like 9 days straight, and like the funeral and everything, and like it was just so healing to have that.
My memories of my own Lolas, I'm always gonna think of my Lola because my Lola's funeral was like my Lola being sick overlapped with my Lola's funeral is just like a long time coming, so we all saw it. But even with my Lola, but the gathering and praying of the novena. So my family has a block rosary novena pamphlet, but there was a special one for the funeral. And I just remember bonding over my cousins because we were sitting way, way, way in the back. and we were looking at it, and we were like, shit, this is so long. And then I told one of them, like, okay, you say pray, I say for, and then you say us. And so we're like, deal. So when it was the whole litany, one would say, pray for us. And I was like,
Pray.
for
Us.
I was like, we're going to get through. This is so long.
Right.
I am the queen of cheating at the rosary. So
Do you miscount if you're leading?
No.
Like you'll do 8 Hail Marys
no,
instead
because
of
my
10.
tita would call me out. But like I have a
You have to call in. Tell her to call in next time.
Yeah.
like when we would do the novena, I actually had asked her, "Can we pray my way?" And she's like, "No." But my way would be so much quicker because
Fast forward.
when I pray the rosary, I only say the title of the prayers.
So
So you're
Hail Mary, Hail Mary,
basically
Hail Mary,
not
Hail Mary.
praying.
Oh yeah. You told us that
Yeah,
before.
you told us
Yeah.
before.
glory be.
Yeah.
How about you, Mike? What are your kind of memories and memories of Filipino funeral traditions?
I don't know if I can recall any specific ones, just because I don't know if it's like a Filipino thing or just, this is just what a funeral is like. I mean, the only thing I can remember is like something about like not wearing red to like, a funeral.
Yeah.
That's a known thing.
And I had no idea why.
Yeah, what
Is there a thing
what's
behind that?
It's scandalous.
Because it's blood.
It's like a scandal.
No, is that
I
what
have
it
no
is?
idea.
I actually have no idea, but I feel like you'd stick out like a sore thumb, I guess.
But like even if you have like a red tie or red socks or something, it's like no red. Like you can wear like black or muted colors, but like red is like a no-no. Something.
Yeah, the color red is said to ward off the dead. Children are allowed to wear red-colored clothes to avoid seeing or playing with the spirit of the dead relative. When attending a wake or funeral, one should wear dark-colored clothes as a sign of mourning.
Do you wear black or white?
So
Depends.
My family's not Chinese, so we wore black.
Is it only Chinese
yeah.
thing?
I just
I've
wear
always
black.
learned it was a Chinese type of thing.
When my brother passed away, his wife asked everyone to wear white, so we all wore white.
Huh.
So yeah, it depends. I think.
Yeah.
I think traditionally it's more like, the whole idea of mourning is supposed to be dark and
Right.
black and all that stuff. But
Do you tend to joke at memorials to lighten the mood?
Of course.
yes,
My favorite joke that I told at a funeral was to my
Oh gosh.
it's to my best friend
What-
Jen.
Oh, it's not a part of the eulogy or anything?
No.
Okay.
We were at the wake for her Lola Loli, and I was talking to her mom, Tita Betty. And I was just like, "Hey, Tita Betty, how's it going?" And I was all jovial, and she's just like, "Oh, I love that you're here." And then I said to her, "I put the fun in funeral."
Oh wow.
Really?
I did.
Really?
I was really young. I was in my 20s, and I said,
I thought you were like
"No."
10 or.
I'm pretty sure I was in my 20s.
Oh, my
'cause
goodness.
Loli didn't die until we were in our 20s.
Oh, you know what that reminds me of? When I was 9 years old, my aunt passed away.
Please tell me you said the same joke.
No. But
not that silly.
we were actually in there was like a healing prayer thingy for my aunt who had cancer, but she passed away that night when everybody was there.
Oh
Right?
wow.
And I remember everyone was crying and stuff like that, and I had some water, and then I gave it to my uncle, the widower. I gave it to my uncle. And he said, "Oh, that's nice of you." And I said, I don't know, I was 9 years old. I said, "Oh yeah, I don't want it anymore." And they just laughed at me.
See?
I lighten the mood. Lighten the mood.
Well, another thing I remember in the Philippines is right before they don't bury any of the bodies in my town. All of the bodies are above ground and under cement.
A mausoleum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like coffins, but are above ground.
Remember,
coffins.
Like in New
Yeah.
Orleans,
Yeah.
because you can't really put anything underwater.
Exactly.
Underground, because they'll be underwater.
Right. So there are a lot of familial mausoleums. And one of the things that I recall seeing was people just hacking at the coffin, and I asked my dad, what the heck are they doing? And they did that before they put it under the cement, and he's like, it's in the event that someone comes and takes the body out of the coffin, they destroy basically the coffin so that it's not reusable afterwards.
Because people steal like
People
coffin,
steal
Yeah.
grave diggers.
Yeah,
Well,
no,
grave robbers.
robbers.
Grave
Yeah.
robbers, which I like, they would have to hack at the cement first to
Oh, my
even
goodness.
get to the coffin.
So there's a lot of grave robbing in
Really?
the Philippines, because especially after a funeral that is buried underground, because or it's an ornamental thing, like you put ornaments on the person that passes, you put like favorite jewelry and stuff. It gets robbed all the time. Like it's kind of
Wow.
sad. It's kind of sad. But that's
Have you all
another thing.
attended funerals in the Philippines?
haven't been to the
I don't remember.
I was looking at you, Elaine.
I'm like, I haven't been to the Philippines, so no.
Mike, no. I've attended one,
Okay.
and then
Was
it
it
was very
extra
interesting.
intense?
Well, obviously there's more family around,
Mhm.
right? And there's more neighbors and stuff like that, and they have the marches through the
Village.
town.
With the band, do they have the band?
They didn't have the band, I guess.
It's,
Well,
it's
they
more
could,
of like a
but-
solemn march.
Yeah. And
Is
then
it band, like there's a second line that follows?
Yeah.
They did
I-
that for my grandparent.
Yeah,
my grandpa.
there were
Really?
like brass. Yeah, for my Lola.
Like and I remember the wakes
Mhm.
or like not the wake, but the novenas. Like the body's still in the
Yeah.
house, right? And then you're not supposed to like
Leave
leave
it
the body
alone.
alone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? So then everybody's there like up all night.
Yeah.
And then they play like mahjong and tong-its.
Yeah.
What's tong it?
It's like mahjong but with cards.
Yeah.
Oh.
Something like that. Yeah. I guess like jinrami, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it was really interesting because there's a lot of those kind of traditions in
Right.
display. And it was nice like seeing that.
So mahjong is like it's a big. I actually think it's like a big part of a funeral tradition. And so I asked my dad, I'm like, oh, is that just because we like to gamble? He goes, well, that's part of it, but it's actually a fundraiser. So he says, most of the time in homes, if people like magpapa mahjong,
Yeah.
means like a percentage of the games
The
that has
tong would go
tong
to
would go to the family. I'm like,
Tong.
oh yeah, the tong.
Interesting.
And so like
Tong, ta, tong, tong, tong.
Oh my gosh.
You're putting the fun in funeral episodes, Joe.
That's going to be a hard one to forget, Elaine.
but I have been in the Philippines during like All Souls Day. So in the Philippines growing up there, maybe different now in terms of like Halloween. We never really celebrated Halloween in the Philippines. You do celebrate November 2nd, I believe it's All Souls Day. November 1st is All Saints Day.
Yeah.
And so Araw ng Patay, when you're in the Philippines in like cemeteries, it is like jam packed.
Party, right?
And everyone's gambling. Everyone's eating and gambling. Like
Yeah.
like
It's like
they
a
have
party
tents.
atmosphere,
Yeah,
yeah.
like a tents of people playing mahjong and stuff. But it is a way to kind of come together and kind of like, celebrate life, but also like pay honor to the dead. So
Yeah.
I have been there during that time, but other than that, I haven't really.
I
been
used to
a funeral.
try and do the mass here at the Tabernacle Mission. I went the first year after my Lola. My mom was insisting that we go, so we went. It was so crowded, like so many people. And then I saw like certain families that were like they had their camp chairs and they're
Yeah.
like barbecue. And I was like, why are they having a picnic? And then I looked at my mom. I'm like, we don't have any food. I have to get communion to not be hungry. I'm like, Mom, what? And she was just like, no. And I'm like, okay. And then I just realized like, oh, that's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
And then since then, like I haven't gone in forever, but like I would try and I would leave like things on my grandparents' like gravestone. And I tell my dad like, oh, like one time I didn't have any money for flowers, but I had like fruit in my office, so I brought the fruit. And my dad said, why'd you do that? Who's gonna eat that? And I was like, I don't know.
The
Like,
ants.
that's exactly what my dad said. You're feeding the ants.
So, one of my favorite movies, Filipino movies, in the early 2000s is this movie called Crying Ladies,
Sharon Cuneta.
with the megastar Sharon Cuneta. It also starred, I think, Hilda Coronel and the youngest one is I think Angel Aquino. Anyway, it's a tradition I didn't know about, but it's actually a Chinese tradition, and the funerals in the Philippines is they about crying ladies, and so in order for the spirit to pass to the afterlife, there's ladies that cry and mourn on behalf of the families, and that's their job. Their job is to like cry the entire time. And I thought that was kind of interesting because we have a lot of Chinese Filipinos that brought some of that tradition to the Philippines. There's also there you can learn about like one of the kids in mourning was like not allowed to shave. I don't know if that's Judeo-Christian as well, but in Chinese culture you're not allowed to shave. So his 5 o'clock shadow and it ends up becoming a beard.
It's
and
all patchy.
It's all patchy. I know, Filipino Chinese. But that's to me it's like there's definitely some passage of different kinds of traditions and cultures. I think when Joe and I were talking about this, like the passing of the kid over the coffin is also some kind of tradition in African culture, and even passed on to the Caribbean one. So there's some reflections on it, which is kind of interesting.
I know there's the Greek kind of mythology about I think you go through like river Styx.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah,
you go through a river. Yeah. In kind of pre-colonial Filipino traditions, there's a belief, or at least a lot of the folks there, there's a belief that you go on kind of like a river or ocean voyage into the afterlife.
Like purgatory is a
I guess so. Yeah.
No, well, it's
so like a lot of the burial jars or kind of coffins, at least before the Spaniards came, incorporated like kind of these boats. So it's supposed to be vessels for people to go into the afterlife.
It's like Persephone in Hades. Like they wish she would be on a boat to get to Hades.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And then it's in the river are actual bodies.
Yeah.
Souls.
Yeah.
Well, that's the
Souls.
Greek one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, in Hercules, the Disney movie, they show that.
Okay.
I'm like,
I didn't read that.
Well, no, because I think a lot of it has to do with the water culture, water and rivers as a main mode of transportation is important. Like was the main mode of transportation back before the Spaniards came, right?
But also a source of life. River is a source of life. So the first time I went back to the Philippines as an adult, I was also there during All Souls Day. I did not expect to see a videoke machine
in the
cemetery.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
Like people having a party.
Yeah.
So that was really cool.
do you think they're putting the fun in funeral?
I'm sure they were.
It's more fun.
It's more fun in the funeral in Philippines.
Oh my gosh.
But it was, I mean, I think it was more, I don't know. It felt significant for me knowing that, we're very far from a really humongous city. Like, what's the largest city near Ballesteros? Taguigaraw?
Joe has a
Joseph?
blank face.
Tagagaraw. I don't know. It was like
I'm looking at you because you know
was
geography better than I do.
Ballester was like the edge of the earth.
I know. It actually does feel that way. So anyway, when we were there for All Souls Day, like a lot of my family members who've since, as adults, they've also moved on to larger cities, all came home. Mm-hmm. So it was a really good time to visit because we were able to see a lot of, relatives that I didn't actually expect to see when we had gone home.
I have a weird question. What do you think your afterlife would be like?
This.
Podcasting?
Yeah. Because it's fun and it's like, I always think about the afterlife as like the maximum of like
real life.
Whatever you output in your real life. So if you found happiness and this is if you pass the test of going up or down, right? If you pass the test of like, what happiness was to you on earth, kind of like being with friends and eating and all that stuff, then that's what you have like in heaven.
Every day.
I mean, it doesn't have to be every day, but whatever that might be. But like this, like camaraderie and all that stuff. So I think there's that's what I imagine.
Shooting the shit.
Yeah, shooting the shit. People watching, stuff like that. Playing cards.
Do you think you're gonna be like a ghost and visit Earth?
Yes.
I would totally do that.
Immediately you said yes.
Yeah.
I would totally
do it.
If you had the chance to haunt somebody Totally.
Right?
Who would it be? Who would it
Who would
be?
you
Totally do that.
Who would you haunt?
I mean,
one of you guys, if you guys
well,
still around.
you would haunt someone just for kicks, and then
Yeah.
you would haunt someone just like to get back at them, right? I
Well, we're
would.
not gonna say that.
No,
but
that's
yeah.
bad because then you might go down.
That's true. That's true.
I don't know. I don't believe in the down.
Oh, you don't?
Upside
No.
down.
Oh, you're like
Upside down.
You're like the Jews. Jews don't believe in hell.
Oh, I guess I'm Jewish.
Not quite. Just
Bernardo, it's
More Joe-ish.
Oh my goodness.
good job.
Job,
Slow
Mike.
clap
High
on that
five. High five.
Well done.
Wait, so what's the thing with the roses? When you smell roses and like,
Oh yeah.
someone explain that to
happened to
me.
me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that actually happens.
That happens to me a lot.
pretty commonly in my family. I think generally my family spirits are active, and there's usually at least one person in our family when we're together that will smell roses or like a really strong scent of jasmine. I'm told that my Lola was actually buried in a lot of like jasmine scented perfume, so that it's most likely her. But on several occasions, it's been her and some other spirits. So, it's common in my family. I don't know how common it is.
It's common for me. I've had it happen multiple times.
Yeah, you talked about that before.
Yeah, in college, when it was the funeral of somebody I went to high school with, I couldn't make the funeral. And I was thinking about her all day. And I was at like some Kaba conference thing or something Kaba related at Irvine. And I had this really strong smell of roses. And I was like, what's happening? And I realized like, oh, it was Kathy's funeral. And it was probably happening. And she was probably like, it was happening that day. And then for me, I kind of get, as an adult, freaked out. So I was at work and I was like walking back to my office and I had this really strong smell of roses. Like overpowering. And then it disappeared.
Did you look around to see where it was coming from?
I was like, am I near a rose bush? There's nothing. So I called my dad. I was like, Dad, are you okay? Dad, are you okay? And he's like, yeah, I'm fine. I'm like, okay. He's like, why are you calling? I'm like, I just had this really strong smell of roses and I don't know why. And I was just really concerned. And so I wanted to make sure that him and my mom were all fine. And he's like, no, we're fine. And then I think it might have been an anniversary of a family member that had passed away. And so that could have been it. Oh, no, it was my Lola's birthday. So, like, it's something around then. So, like, I was like, oh, shit.
Was there an origin for that though, or is it just one of those things that we all just know?
Yeah, well, have any of the gentlemen
Experienced
experienced this?
Well, I mean,
I've smelled guns and roses.
That's not
Were
not
you
a
in the
thing.
jungle?
I was
That's not a thing.
I was living on a prayer.
Were you
No,
at
that's Bon Jovi. Sorry, I was in November Rain.
You totally
In
messed
Paradise
that up too. It's not a thing.
that smell like sweat and beer.
So I'm gonna take that as a no, Joseph.
Ryan?
So it wasn't necessarily like flowers, but like scents and smells are very powerful in terms of memory, right? So this happened to me. It's just probably the only one I could recall that like absolutely freaked me out. I try not to get too much into like ghosts and all that stuff. I
Don't look behind
Scared.
you.
don't say that. There's a Santa Nina behind me. I know it.
It's moving. It's moving.
It's dancing. I just it happened because there was multiple people in the room. I was maybe 18. I was volunteering at my old school, and my 6th grade teacher is the person I was volunteering with. And so there was about 6 of us in the classroom. And she said we had been talking about the old days because, I'm no longer in 6th grade, but we remembered Mrs. Rockwell, one of our teachers that had passed away. She had a very distinct smell, which was not necessarily a good thing, but it was a very distinct. We all knew
A
it.
perfume kind
A
of
perfume that wasn't really like pleasant, right? It wasn't really pleasant. It was like a very weird, I'll call it a very weird smell.
Okay.
And we were just talking about it, and seriously, just out of nowhere, Mrs. DeWare's radio
Turned on.
turned on,
Uh-huh.
and then all of us just went, ugh. And some of the
Oh.
kids that were there never met Mrs. Rockwell. It goes, what's that smell? And I looked at the Mrs. Dewar. I looked at her and I said, oh, and I'm getting it now.
Your
I had got goosebumps,
Oh,
and she looked at me
goosebumps.
and she goes, Ryan, you remember? I'm like, yes. And there was these kids who were like in 8th grade. They're like, what is that? That's kind of funky, right? It's like a weird, funky smell.
Wow.
And we had to explain to them. It was the only time I was kind of like freaked out as a young person about like a smell of something. And then, of course, there's been some times, I think a lot of it is supposed to remind us, right? It's
Yeah.
a reminder for us. Even in the Tagalog term is like, nagpaparamdam, right? Makes you feel. Damdam or ramdam is to feel. So when someone makes you feel something, it's like a reminder, like, oh, okay, don't forget. Don't
Yeah.
forget us, kind of like that.
So going back to Afterlife, what do you think Afterlife is going to happen with you all? What's going to happen in your afterlife?
I already said I'm going to haunt one of you guys.
Hey.
Elaine, Girly?
Oh, when you asked that question, I was like, I'm going to be at Disneyland all the time. I have all the money and eat all the churros, and it's going to be totally fine. I won't ever get tired, and my stomach will never get full. I'll be able to eat everything.
That sounds like the good place.
Hey,
Yes,
but
the good
no,
place.
but in the good place, everything's forking bad, and I would rather that not happen.
Girly?
I don't know. I kind of see myself in like this humongous. Well, I would love to be in like this humongous ancestral house where like I'm either with relatives or just friends of friends that have become our chosen family. And I'd also I'd like to think that I would be able to check in with loved ones every now and then. With however, like whatever capacity that spirits are able to in that part of our lives. But yeah, like I think my ideal situation would be kind of just in this really big ancestral home to be
Interesting.
hanging out with
How
people.
about you, Joe?
I think when I first enter the afterlife, I'm going to see my relatives who have passed away and all my friends. That's like the people who are going to greet me.
Yeah.
But I think, which I'm really looking forward to in the afterlife, it's going to be like this giant TV where I could like look at the entire like history of civilization.
Nerd.
You're such a historian.
Like I want to see
like-
the
And
exact
you can
parts.
fast forward.
No, the exact moment when like
Emilio Aguinaldo was betrayed.
yeah, or like when Magellan
I knew it.
when Magellan came
And
to the
was
Philippines and was killed by
Lapu-Lapu.
yeah.
I knew it.
I want to see that.
Like, was it a
Stop
struggle or was it like...
Yeah, I want to see exactly what happened. Like instead of just like guessing, I actually get to see in documentary style
Yeah.
what actually
I
happened.
totally thought he was going to say, so I could see the Lakers like relive their triumph in all of their championship glory.
I'm
Well, I already
so
know that on
happy.
videos.
I'm so happy to know that your first wish is to not be with me in the afterlife. That's so comforting to know. That's so comforting.
He can watch you on
Joe.
TV.
Let's see on TV.
Wait, I have a question.
Yeah.
So how many years after your loved one has passed away that your family continued to commemorate their
That's a
death
good question.
anniversary? Like, and when I say commemorate, I mean like
Gather?
all out, yeah, physical gathering, family party.
It was only the 1 year,
I think at the 1 year,
and then that's it.
and then they kind of like died down, and then now that my family does like a monthly prayer meeting, they do it every month. Like the intention is always for
Okay.
Well, I know we're going to Ballesteros, your family, Girly.
the edge of the earth.
The edge of the like, you know, they had a gathering because we were there, right? And they had lechon and everything. But then, you know, they were doing, your Lola was doing the prayers and they're trying to remember all the ancestors
That
and their
passed.
names. And they did like an offering or something or a prayer to them. So that's kind of also like a commemoration to them.
Yeah. Well, I asked the question because so there was a period where like my grandmother passed away, and then a few years later my grandfather passed away, a few years later my uncle passed away, and it felt like we just kept commemorating people's passing for a pretty significant period of time, because my dad, my aunt, and my uncle, we would all take turns going to the Philippines with each of our immediate families.
So you said about commemoration, like, did your families do this, that when the casket was there, they put the names of the family members for that person?
No.
Inside the casket?
So like for my lolas and my lolo, in the casket, they would put all the descendants of that person, their names in there.
Oh, wow.
And so I remember for my lola, I saw all my aunts and uncles. I knew their names. And I saw one name that I had never seen before. And it was Jamie. And I was like, who's that? And then my dad told me this, my mom, but Jamie had been my Lolo and Lola's firstborn, but he had died.
I was going to say illegitimate.
Well, leading into that.
Oh, gosh.
Have you ever been to a funeral where a secret family showed up?
Oh, yeah. It was
Wow, you were quick.
Totally awkward. Totally awkward. We're like, who is that person?
And the chismis like circle
How did that
wheel turns.
Because I remember when my best friend's dad died, like they're saying like, oh, what if secret family shows up? And like my auntie was like, I'll accept the children, but the bitch needs to not be there.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, wait, is there really a secret family? And there wasn't one, but like the whole like she had in her mind mentally prepared to be like, I'll accept these other children, but if the other woman's there, she needs to get the fuck out.
Oh, wow.
I was like, is this a Filipino thing with the secret family?
Right. Oh, man.
Not all the time.
No, it's everybody.
This is true.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Well, this has been an interesting episode. Part of the reason why I wanted to do this is I think culturally speaking, especially with Filipinos, and people grieve differently, right? We all grieve differently, and we all have this process of grieving when it comes to the afterlife. And I'm sure we've had deaths in our family, and it's something that we want to honor our members that have passed, family members that have passed, but also like the way we want to celebrate life. And it's a very communal and community thing when it comes to like a Filipino grieving, right? Like family's always around food and prayers,
and paying homage to ancestors,
right?
Too, yeah.
Right. And so I think it's beautiful. I think it's a beautiful thing that that we can carry on. I do think, Girly, when you say, after how many years do you still kind of celebrate or commemorate? It's kind of tough, right? There's a couple of ways to think about, having a yearly celebration or a commemoration, but there's also that grief process of like, oh, we don't have to do that as elaborately. We have gone, we have gone through the process of grieving. Now there's a process of like sort of peace. And I think in all of the traditions that we've mentioned, a lot of it is centered on how do you peacefully transition from a loss to something that says, we had this person on this earth for this amount of time, and hopefully we can see them again after we pass. So thank you guys for joining me on this. Any final thoughts and comments?
For anyone that's ever lost somebody or is in the process of grieving and losing someone, however recent or ever long, because I know that grief is a forever process.
Agree.
And so we wish you peace.
Right.
And if you have any thoughts about this,
or have traditions or practices that we don't know about.
I would like to know other people who put the fun in funeral. And maybe you are part of a secret family. Give us a call. 805-394
TFAL.
This Filipino American Life is produced by Michael Nailat. Our intro and outro music is by Roger Habon, aka 10.4 Raj. Resident reality checker Girly Collado. Legal advisor Rianne Fajardo. And graphic design by Vincent Collyer.